Most of my writings are in French, so the first text I will read you a few paragraphs in French from a book, that my book that has been published in 2011, La Négresse de Saint-Domingue, the Black Women of Saint-Domingue, former name of Haiti. So although we don't talk about black and white, but yeah, that's the title of the book. Le nègre marron qui se and this book is it's the history of colonization of Haiti from a colonizer perspective. Le nègre marron qui se perd dans un chemin désert n'a donc rien à craindre. Lorsqu'il décide de faire une pause dans sa vie derrière les mornes, il sait que quelque part, une petite caille au toit de chaume l'attend. Quand finalement il se hasarde à frapper et à dire au nez, de l'intérieur, on lui répond respect. Il voit venir alors à lui un nègre ou une négresse dont le sourire et l'air franc lui souhaitent déjà la bienvenue. Mû par les marques d'attention de ses confrères qui bien souvent ne connaissent pas de limites, le marron ne devient que gêne et confusion. Mais en pénétrant à l'intérieur de la petite caille, il bénit ses dieux d'avoir guidé ses pas vers l'une de ces demeures où l'amour du prochain n'est jamais un défaut. Ses hôtes lui font visiter leur humble chaumière. Il se démène hardiment pour que son séjour soit des plus agréables. Si le visiteur arrive en plein jour, il s'attable avec ses bienfaiteurs autour de grands bols fumants où les louches et les cuillères en bois vont et viennent incessamment de la bouche au cuit ou vers un grand plat taillé dans le bois et dressé pour la circonstance, un monument pour tous ceux qui sont autour de lui. Ils boivent de la limonade et de l'eau toujours fraîche du Canari. Ils font connaissance, se partagent les dernières nouvelles, parlent des autres, des dieux et des lois. La conversation s'éternise toujours dans le rire et la gaieté. Si le marron arrive la nuit, il est seul devant son bol sous le regard complaisant de ses hôtes qui ne mangent point, mais veillent à lui assurer une bonne compagnie. Ayant eux-mêmes déjà mangé leur part, ils mettent souvent de côté un plat pour le visiteur qui leur ferait le plaisir de frapper à leur porte. Au coucher, les hôtes lui donnent la meilleure natte, prennent 1000 précautions pour qu'il n'ait pas à souffrir d'une mauvaise nuit. Au lever, son café et son savamment bas l'attendent. En leur souhaitant le bonjour, le marron affirme à ses hôtes qu'il n'a jamais connu une nuit aussi paisible et douce. S'il consent à reprendre la route le matin même, les nègres se mettent à 2 ou à 3 et l'accompagnent pendant un bout de chemin, avec la crainte de ne le revoir jamais. Entre gens qui s'aiment et s'apprécient, une roue libre est quelque chose d'important. Si le visiteur passe toute la journée, les hôtes lui renouvellent les mêmes soins. Les conversations fusent davantage et les souvenirs deviennent inoubliables. Avec eux, nègres libres ou nègres en cavale sont tous taillés dans la même étoffe. I just read a description of Haitian hospitality during the slavery period when a slave, a rebel slave would escape the plantation, and how people in some particular region would embrace him and feed him and give him place to stay. So Valerie just mentioned about this anthology, and one of the pieces she read has been published, is also part of this anthology. It's a volume that has been, that the International Writing Program in Iowa put together after the earthquake, a way to tell the stories of what happened from different writers' perspective. Haitian American writers here in Canada and from Haiti, they contributed in this volume. So I'll read a piece that I have in this volume that has been translated from French into English, so it's not French. I spread my legs, and at my feet the gods, the spirits, and the loi mixed in a hallelujah of a believer with 1,000 faces. I bent under the weight of pain, mute and indifferent. I waltzed under the wings of the bewitching breeze and offered my breast to the taints of the wind. I hiccuped, I sweated, I barked. I pushed, groaned, and whimpered. Bent but not broken, weakened but still standing. A violent and painful spasm, like a hard stool, rebellious and fickle, that eventually empties the bowels. So you came and declared war on the sun. Like many others, you too let out that cry celebrating victory over life. How could we not believe all the promises and hope against all hope? Deep down, deep down in my heart, deeper than a knife plunging into a squash, sprouted the thought that a son would bring glory to his mother. I loved like never before. Among those of our race, my son, you are the fiercest. I see you taking your first steps under the sun in the midst of your cousins, so different from you, but so similar too. What I love about you is the color by which everyone knows that you are your mother's son, a color that makes your cousins say how much we look alike, you and me, and how different we are from them. The color in the name of which our brothers have long kept us subjugated, your father and me. The pain and hope of it make us both laugh now. You came, our chains were broken, and we began to speak. The boiling cane syrup poured on your feet could not slow you down. The mad ants that ate your ankles and ears in the evening and crawled under your loincloth inside you did not get the better of you. They cut off an arm. They maimed you. You came to know death herself, but you are always reborn, ever more yourself, ever more determined to find your place under the sky. So we all asked ourselves questions, astonished, about the one who dared to challenge the sun on its journey. As for me, I constantly brooded over you in my heart. You live within me the way water finds its way into the dry earth. I just knew, watching you, my son, that the moment had come for us. Do you remember our walk at dawn on the day after your terrible fight with your cousins? We silently walked the road that led to the great plantations of the North Coast. The air smelled burnt, and the flying debris of charred leaves and trees found refuge on your Negro wrap. I watched this son as he went about his territory, head high, shoulders always straight. I saw myself puff up with pride. Yesterday, you again scattered your most powerful cousins. You never stopped telling them that you were a horse that could never be tamed, a gust of wind that couldn't be stopped. They knew that the inevitable would eventually happen. You proved them right. For the first time, I, Haiti Boyo Kiskea, felt that I was myself. I was reborn through my own innards. My spirit went far, far away. I saw I saw myself as Queen Anakauna. I rediscovered Africa and its evening tales. I greedily swallowed the delicious sakasaka that used to satisfy our palates in earlier times. Thank you. Every step brought us closer to our roots, and in my heart, I repeated endlessly, may our gods be blessed. Did I tell you that I know of no one who was happier than I was at that time? Coffee and cocoa came forth in abundance from my innards. I was endlessly fertile. I was the arid and desiccated earth taking its revenge for having been kept sterile too long. I finally rediscovered my own fertility, so I gave. I gave without respite. It was my only purpose. Do you remember? I came into my own in my greenery. And the wind, the sun, the rain, thunderstorms, and hail all found refuge in the shadow of my wings one day. The sound of my wealth spread to the countries in which our cousins live. You, my son, went to some of them and shared with them the fruit of freedom, wrested away in violence and blood. They said you are shameless. They said you are getting too big for your britches. Some of your cousins deliberately followed in your footsteps. Others swore to make you pay and pay dearly for your insolence. That's when my ordeal began and my guts were slowly torn out of me. There is no one more there is no one more wretched than me. You didn't see the tragedy coming. You are too busy showing off the pride of being a free Negro. You are so proud to have carried the seeds of freedom within you that you forgot that sunshine follows rain and follows sunshine. You even forgot your roots. You cursed and rejected your own flesh, the very ones that fought with you to free your race. You went to your cousins and called them brother. You called your own brother stranger. You gloried when you sat with the other and were proud to resemble him in being more like him than he was himself. This happened over time. You and I went from failure to failure. Then came the winds of division. You went far away from me, and I knew I couldn't survive. I called on your spirit. You didn't understand me. You no longer spoke your mother's tongue. I begged you like never before to come back to me. But you are far away, busy feeding at others' breasts. You glowed brightly by the heat of others' teeth, better able to open the doors of the world than I could. Despite it all, my heart was even fuller of love and pride, seeing you make others happy. I never stopped singing your praises. I never stopped saying how deep your roots were within me. That was my only consolation. But I knew then that I was lost, fated to nothingness. Should I continue? I don't know. We are all one day reduced to nothingness. We find ourselves suddenly wrapped into the folds of its skirt. That may be what happened to me. I must be my fate, not to see my innards freezing under the bowl of the sun. It may be that I am a cursed land, fated to watch my bones dry out one by one. Evil walks ahead of some people. Maybe I am one of them. In my mother's womb already I was no doubt fated to see the fruit of my breasts reject the belly that brought it into the world. Could it be that this outer shell, which I had believed was my strength, smells of death? They called me beast of burden, wood of ebony. They said I was the shame of humanity. What was my crime? Do you know, my son? What would I be sentenced for? Have the gods too turned their backs on me? Nature herself resists the whip that lashes me from head to toe. I suffered knife stab after knife stab, yet I always got my back on feet. The evening downpour often caught me by surprise. The next morning I was up on my feet at dawn, lighting my pipe and roasting my coffee. For despite everything nature gave me, weapons of my own. How many times were they sure they had defeated me? Disgusted, they called me Potomita. My strength and my fortitude earned me the nickname Femme Voyant. The year 1804 ended. 1915 did too, but 2010 was a blow. For seconds that seemed endless, I was taken into the depths of death to atone. Sorry. For who knows what's saying. My eyes looked on nothingness. I told it that the time hadn't yet come. I groaned. I screamed like never before. Death would not get the better of me. This would be the last battle. I lost in it over half of your brothers and sisters. My innards fell by the thousands. I was left with one arm, maimed. Your sisters and brothers whom I had carried and fed at my breast died, helpless in the powerful tempest and winds. Water and fire hit me from left and right as if I were a summer. I bent like a reed, but my back was not broken. Although my belly shook and many of my sons and daughters were departed, my eyes again turned toward nothingness. The time has not yet come. It was from that moment on that they truly saw me as a femme voyant. How is it possible to understand such heroism in the face of death? Then I saw your cousins come to my rescue from the four corners of the planet. I again became the center of the earth. I understood then the power of love. Yet I couldn't help but see them competing in a contest in which the most powerful for, set themselves up as tutors. There is a right to interference rather than to indifference. The relief effort, a fleet. But you see, my son, I watch what is happening to me and take great pleasure in it. Don't they always say that it is in tragedy that you know your true friends? Take Dominique, my neighbor. When the gust of wind pushed me to the very bottom of the abyss, she was the first to hold out her hand to me. Although she and I have had a long history of quarrels and reciprocal hatred, I look at us and know that my relationship with her will never again be what it was in the past. Consider also the generosity of Cousin Ugba to ease the pain in my belly. She allowed Cousin Amiranda, her staunchest enemy, to pass through her land so that she might fly quickly to my rescue. I must say, however, that most astonishing of all was the attitude of Cousin Frances toward me. Of all of your cousins, male or female, she had been the most murderous in the past, the most distant too. In this time of mourning, she dressed in her most beautiful finery and came for a visit I won't soon forget. Surprising, isn't it? We all celebrated life in the face of death and forgot the quarrels we had devised in such detail. You see, my son, ideas come to me this way. I hear the voice rising from the deepest part of my being, the echo of my roots rising up against nothingness. Don't flowers wither in the evening only to open again, more beautiful, to face the sun in the morning? Who doesn't die to be reborn? I'm still hopeful that tomorrow will be a better day. But please come back to your mother. Never have I needed you so much. And despite all of my desire for life, I know that I won't survive if you abandon me. Whose mother would I be? I want you everything to me. I've tightened my belt around my belly and put my three-cornered kerchief on my head. I have been boiling my coffee since dawn, and my bread is filled with mamba. I'm standing under the lintel of the door. I'm waiting for my son to rise.